Hello and good day, promising students of Ujawan National High School. You are watching a video lesson in 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. I am your teacher, Rodney Garcia from Ujawan National High School. I will be your guide in bringing you fun and learning during this course. Are you ready to engage in a literary adventure? Before we begin, let us be guided by these 3 reminders.
First, observe basic health protocols. Make sure your hands are clean. Observe social distancing. And wear your face mask if needed. Second, get your learning modules, pen, and paper. It would greatly help if you have your modules while you are watching this video lesson. Third and most important reminder, wear your smiles and positive attitude while learning.
Our topic for today is on the dimensions of Philippine literary history. In this lesson, we will visit our Philippine history to describe the development of our local literature. We shall look into the geographic, linguistic, and ethnic dimensions of Philippine literary history from pre-colonial to the contemporary.
Particularly, you have to achieve the following goals. Discuss the literary periods based on the important events and literary genres occurring in each period. Second, arrange the different literary periods of the Philippines using a timeline. Third, identify the theme of a song in a literary period. Finally, cite the importance of understanding the development of Philippine literature from the different literary periods.
But first, let me check how much do you know about this lesson through a knowledge check. I have 5 questions here for you. After listening to the question, pick the letter of your answer from the given choices. Again, after the question, pick the letter of your answer from the given choices. Alright, let's begin.
First question. In what period did Jose Rizal publish Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo to awaken the minds of Filipinos? A. Spanish period. B. American period. C. Pre-Spanish period. Or D. Period of Enlightenment. In what period did Jose Rizal publish Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo to awaken the minds of Filipinos? If your answer is period of enlightenment, then you are correct. During the period of enlightenment, Jose Rizal wrote his 2 famous novels to liberate Filipinos from oppression. Second question. In what period did our ancestors make legends, folktales, and folk songs? A. Spanish period. B. Japanese period. C. Pre-Spanish period. Or D. Period of Enlightenment. In what period did our ancestors make legends, folktales, and folk songs? If your answer is pre-Spanish period, then you are right. Our ancestors already have their literature that reflects their life and customs. Third question. In what period are religious books written to support or contradict the Catholic Church? A. Spanish period. B. American period. C. 21st century period. Or D. Period of Enlightenment. Third question. In what period are religious books written to support or contradict the Catholic Church? I think you know the answer, and that is Spanish period. During this time, religion was used to subjugate the minds of people. I hope you are doing well, my dear learners, because here is our fourth question. In what period did Filipino writers explore different literary forms such as essays, novels, news, and free verse poems? A. EDSA I period, B. American period, C. Pre-Spanish period, or D. the Third Republic period. In what period did Filipino writers explore different literary forms such as essays, novels, news, and free verse poems? If you answered American period, that is correct. Last question. Which period of Philippine literature has written works that are about life in the province, nationalism, and stories of brave guerrillas or Filipino soldier? A. Japanese period, B. American period, C. Pre-Spanish period, or D. 21st century period. Which period of Philippine literature has written works that are about life in the province, nationalism, and stories of brave guerrillas or Filipino soldier? The correct answer is Japanese period.
My dear learners, how was your performance? If you got 5 points, congratulations! I am very proud of you. This lesson will be a piece of cake. If you got 4 and below, that's still a decent performance. This means you have to pay attention to this lesson. And just like that, we are done with our knowledge check. Let's start our journey with more reminders after this break.
Nasistress ka na ba? Nagpapanik o natatakot dahil sa COVID-19? Normal lang ang ganitong mga reaksyon sa ngayon. Pero may magagawa ka para mapagtagumpayan ang sitwasyon na ito. Ituloy lang ang pangangamusta sa mga kamag-anak at kaibigan gamit ang text, tawag o video. Tiyakin na ang mga bata ay ligtas at nasa maayos na kalagayan. Gawin sa bahay ang mga nakasanayan upang hindi mabagot o mabalisa sa panahong ito. Sa wastong pag-iingat, ang virus hindi kakalat. COVID-19, kayang-kaya nating tapusin.
We are back, literary explorers. Let's begin our literary adventure through history as we learn the dimensions of Philippine literature. What do you know about the different literary periods in Philippine literature? Did you know that Philippine literature is rich? Yes, our literature is in fact very rich. It has undergone several developments because of the influences from our geography, languages, and culture from our own countrymen and from foreign invaders. In fact, if we chop the development of our literature according to our history, we have 10 literary periods. These literary periods have different society and different literature. Sounds difficult? Don't worry. Today, we shall go on a time travel and explore these 10 literary periods. I will be your tour guide during this journey. Let's begin.
Pre-Spanish period.
If you think we don't have our literature back in these times, you are definitely mistaken. They call our literature as folklore. Our ancestors have diverse forms of folklore like folk tales, epics, and folk songs. Let's get to know each of these forms.
Folk tales are made-up stories about life, adventure, love, horror, and humor. Folk tales give lesson to people, especially to children. Epics are long narrative poems that deal with heroic achievements or events. Ifugaos have Hudhud-hi Aliguyon, Agyu or Olahing of the Manobos, Biyag ni Lamang of the Ilocanos, and Darangin of the Maranao people. Folk songs mirror the early life and culture of Filipinos. Most of these songs are dodecasyllabic, or written in 12 syllables per line. Examples of folk songs include dalit or rimno, oyayi or hele, soliraning, and talindao.
Spanish period.
When Spaniards colonized the Philippines, which is also known as Hispanization, it brought several changes, particularly in our literature.
First, Christianity was introduced, and European power shaped our literature and thinking. In fact, the Spaniards claimed that our folklore was the work of the devil. This is why most of our epics, legends, and stories vanished or was altered. Second, religious prose and poetry were introduced to spread religion. An example of religious prose is the Memorial de la Vida Cristiana en Lengua Tagala. On the other hand, the most popular religious poetry that time is the Passion, which commemorates the passion, death, and resurrection of Christ. Third, secular works appeared in this period. When we say secular, this refers to literature which does not have any religious themes. A prime example of secular poetry is the corrido. Ibong Adarna is a corrido which has 8 syllables in each line, and it deals with heroism, chivalry, and romance. It is good to note that recreational plays like Cenaculo and Zarzuela emerged in this period.
Period of Enlightenment.
The most important event during the Spanish colonization happened during the period of Enlightenment when the propaganda movement was established. This movement was led by the Ilustrados or Filipino intellectuals such as Jose Rizal and Marcelo del Pilar. The political essays and novels of Rizal helped bring the famous Philippine Revolution, resulting in the downfall of the Spanish regime and the rise of nationalism among Filipinos.
American period.
During the American colonial period, a new set of colonizers brought new changes in Philippine literature. The English language immensely helped cement the American influence in our culture. The popular forms of literature during this time are free verse poetry, modern short story, and critical essays.
Jose Garcia Villa, a national artist, used the free verse and popularized the dictum, art for art's sake. This means any artwork should serve no purpose other than being an art in itself. In terms of short story, Dead Stars by Paz Marquez Benitez was the first success of its kind. Meanwhile, writers in Tagalog and regional languages also continued. These novels in the vernacular are published in weekly magazines like Liwayway and Bisaya. Finally, the essay became a useful instrument. Essayists like Carlos P. Romulo wrote for the delight and pleasure of Filipinos. However, one of the best critical essays from this period came from Salvador Lopez, Literature and Society, which contradicted Jose Garcia Villa's art for art's sake. Lopez argued that art must have substance. During the last episodes of American power in the country, Philippine literature in English flourished, but those written in the regional languages were given little importance.
Japanese period.
Another foreign country, Japan, conquered the Philippines. Literature in English was interrupted. Most newspapers were not able to circulate their paper in the community.
The common themes of most poems were nationalism, love, life in the barrios, faith, religion, and the arts. Haiku, tanaga, and karaniwang anyo are three types of poems that emerged during this period.
Period of literature in English.
Because of the strict prohibitions imposed by the Japanese in the writing and publishing of works in English, Philippine literature in English experienced a dark period. The few who dared to write did so for their bread and butter or for propaganda. Writings that came out during this period were journalistic in nature. Writers felt suppressed, but slowly, the spirit of nationalism started to seep into their consciousness.
Period of activism.
According to Ponciano Pineda, youth activism in this period was due to domestic and worldwide causes. Because of the ills of society, the youth moved to seek reforms. The seeds of youth activism resulted in the declaration of martial law in 1972.
The youth became completely rebellious during this period. This was proven not only in the bloody demonstrations and in the sidewalk expressions, but also in literature. Campus newspapers showed rebellious emotions. The once aristocratic writers developed awareness for society. They held pens and wrote on placards in red paint the equivalent of the word makibaka, which also means to dare. They denounced restrictions on artistic freedom and passionately led a plea for freedom. Among the writers in this group were Nick Joaquin and F. Shonil Jose. Journalists and directors also fought against censorship.
Period of the new society.
Almost all themes in most writings dealt with the development or progress of the country, like the Green Revolution, family planning, proper nutrition, environment, drug addiction, and pollution.
The new society tried to stop those writings that give bad influences on the morals of the people. The forms of literature that led during this period were the essays, debates, and poetry. The short stories, like the novels and plays, were no different in style from those written before the start of activism. The government led in reviving old plays and dramas like the Tagalog Zarzuela, Cenaculo, and the Embayoka.
Period of the Third Republic.
After 10 years of military rule, changes in the life of the Filipinos were evident. The infamous martial law was lifted on January 2, 1981.
The Philippines became a new nation, and former President Marcos called this the New Republic of the Philippines. Poems during this period of the Third Republic were romantic and revolutionary. Many Filipino songs dealt with themes that were true to life, like those of grief, poverty, aspirations for freedom, love of God, of country, and fellow men.
Post-Hedza 1 period.
History took another twist. Once more, the Filipino people regained their independence, which they lost 20 years ago.
The people power, or lakas ng bayan, prevailed. This nonviolent revolution led to the end of President Ferdinand Marcos' 20-year term and the beginning of another democracy in the Philippines. It was noticed in the new Filipino songs, newspapers, speeches, and even in the television programs. And feminist and non-traditional projects were some of the characteristics of the published works during this time. The famous authors include Lilia Quindoza Santiago and Charleston Ong.
21st century period.
After the EDSA I revolution, the Philippine literature prospered, especially those written in the vernacular. Filipino writers became more conscious of their art because of more workshops and large collection of literature on the internet.
Various awards, like the Carlos Palanca Memorial Award, are also available, which encourage Filipino writers to compete with their fellow writers with the hope that their creative efforts will be rewarded in the long run. In the 21st century period, writers from the new generation developed novel styles, using new lingos and formats to add flavor in their literary pieces.
So that is how Philippine literature came to be. That's a lot to take in. I hope you can remember all the salient points from the discussion. Of course, you can always time travel by reading these references through the link in the description. I'll be back for some reminders.
Para malabanan ang COVID-19, ang kailangan natin ay tama at totoong impormasyon, hindi fake news. Huwag kaagad maniniwala sa nababasa at naririnig. Ang pagkalat ng mga maling paniniwala tungkol sa COVID-19 ay nagdudulot ng panik, takot at maling desisyon. Laging i-double check kung saan nanggaling ang nabasa o narinig. Maging mapanuri at i-share lamang ang tamang impormasyon. Sa wastong pag-iingat, ang virus hindi kakalat. COVID-19, kayang-kaya nating tapusin.
And we're back. I hope you are still with me because it is time to test our comprehension. Go to page 5 of your module and answer Task 1, Literary Timeline. Again, go to page 5 of your module and answer Task 1.
Try to complete the literary timeline below. Choose your answers from the given choices. Ready? Let's begin. Number 1. 1565 is also known as what period? Yes, that is known as the pre-Spanish period, or letter E. Number 2. The period between 1566 to 1871 is also known as what period? If your answer is G, or Spanish period, then that's correct. How about number 3? 1872 to 1898 was when the propaganda movement was established. So, what is the answer? If your answer is the period of enlightenment, then that is amazing. You are correct. Number 4. The years between 1898 to 1941 saw a new set of colonizers. What do we call this period? You are right. This is called the American period, or letter V. And number 5, what do we call the period between 1941 to 1945? Yes, 1941 to 1945 is called the Japanese period because Japan occupied our country.
How's it going, my dear explorers? You may continue items 6 to 10 after the video lesson. You may check your answers by looking at the last page of the module. Now, let's proceed to the last activity for this lesson. Go to page 12 of your module and let's try Assessment 3, Saying a Song.
One of the songs in the post-EDSA I era is the song Ang Bayan Ko by Freddie Aguilar. What you're going to do is to listen to the first 2 stanzas and the chorus of the song. Write 2 emotions you can derive from the song. Finally, write a 2-sentence interpretation explaining what the song is all about. Ready? Let's listen to Ang Bayan Ko by Freddie Aguilar.
Ang bayan kong Pilipinas, Lupain ng ginto't bulaklak, pag-ibig na sa kanyang palad, nag-alay ng ganda't dilat. At sa kanyang yumi at ganda, dayuhan ay nahalina. Bayan ko, binihag ka, nasadlak sa dusa. Ibon mang may layang lumipad, kulungin mo at umiiyak. Bayan pa kayang sakdal dilag, ang di magnasang makaalpas. Pilipinas kong minumutya, pugad ng luha at dalita. Aking adhika, makita kang sakdal laya.
What do you think are the emotions expressed in the song? And what do you think is the song about? We will check your answers in the next video lesson. For your assignment, answer Assessment 1, found on page 11. Again, for your assignment, answer Assessment 1, found on page 11. You are going to complete the table by writing the characteristics of the given literature during the pre-Spanish period. And we are finally done with today's discussion. Let's check if we achieved our learning goals for the day.
First, we tried to discuss the different literary periods. Second, we arranged the different literary periods of the Philippines using a timeline. Third, we identified the theme and tone of a song. And to achieve goal number 4, write a reflection or a sentence on why it is important to look back at the development of Philippine literature through history. Again, write a reflection or a sentence on why it is important to look back at the development of Philippine literature through history.
Congratulations, my literary explorers! Indeed, it has been quite a journey with you. The diversity and richness of Philippine literature evolved side by side with the country's history. What we can do now is to value and appreciate the works that make Philippine literature truly remarkable. Don't forget to check your weekly home learning plan to be guided on the activities you need to answer. If you have questions or concerns, you may contact me via email, messenger, or phone number found in your learning kits. Till then, this is your teacher, Rodney Giverson Garcia, saying you should learn to look back to see how far you have gone. Thank you and God bless.